Hello and welcome to a very special episode of, I don't know what series this would be or should be, but yeah, we're on the road to Brno and we're here with our partners Insta360. I've supplied this camera to talk some Marc Marquez questions, to field some interesting, unusual Marc Marquez stuff. And I think the best way to start this, because there's some more general things, but I think the best way to start this would be with this one, Simon. Where do you think Marc would perform better, the Isle of Man TT or the Macau Grand Prix? I've picked this one because that one is a U1. I have no chance of doing it.
It's easy for me. It's Macau, because Macau is the one where you need to ride it more like a short circuit. I've talked about this actually recently quite a bit, where I think Marc Marquez would be a terrible TT rider. One, because he's too small. TT guys are all quite big because you have to be physical to muscle a bike around. And secondly, because his riding style is far too aggressive for how smooth you need to be at Macau. So I think you kind of see that in the results of the Macau Grand Prix versus the TT anyway, because the people who are super fast at Macau these days are kind of BSB racers like Glenn Irwin.
Yeah.
And then they go to TT and they don't perform as well. It doesn't click as well. Yeah, I think that's an easy one.
Yep. Fun, good. I couldn't have. I suspected Macau, but I don't think I could have definitively said
It's kind
anything.
of my mastermind specialist subject, isn't it?
Let me give myself an easier one. What do you believe are Marc's most unique qualities? Let's I guess do one each, but the one I'd start with and the one, there will be riders like Marc. We always, when we watch riders dominate, we're always like, oh, there's never going to be anybody like him, and then 10 years later there's somebody like him. But obviously they're all different in those slight little ways, and for Marc there's a lot in his arsenal. I think the thing that for me separates him the most, people call it bravery. I think bravery is a very boring sort of answer. All these guys are brave, all these guys have something not quite right with them in terms of the risk assessment on the bike. For me, it's that the first 10 minutes of FP1 basically is my, like, the Marc thing I always come back to. It's that ability, and I don't think it's bravery, I think it's the ability to process like the risk assessment and just the ability to push closest to 100% at all times compared to all the current other guys on the grid, and compared to probably, I'd imagine, most riders in history. There are different levels of challenges there, because obviously now pushing to 100% early on is less risky to your health. Still risky, but less risky than it used to be. But it's those first 10 minutes when the track is a little off and just not very familiar. There's a reason the whole grid moves closer to Marc the longer we go into the weekend, like almost every time. And I think that's it. I think it's basically hitting it out of the blocks, being able to run as close to your optimal lap time on that track condition as you can. Not 3 seconds off, not 2 seconds off, not 1 second off. You're right there, right away. Which again, I don't think is bravery, I think it's processing power. Or something to that effect.
So it's funny you say that, because mine is actually very closely related. It's, at the minute when it's difficult to overtake in MotoGP races, Marc can seemingly make up 5 places in the opening lap, regardless of how bad his start is.
Yes.
And it's because he can sense position.
Yes.
And I've made the Marc Cavendish comparison before about how, in a Tour de France sprint, he could sense where to be. And I don't think Marc does it. I think it's completely instinctive. He just senses how to pick his way through a pack. And I think, it's his ability to process information without having to think about what he's doing. There's a military thing called an OODA loop, which is observe, orientate, something that I can't remember, and act. And the shorter your OODA loop, the better a soldier you are. And it's basically the same thing. He can shorten that process. And I think the way that he works in opening laps shows that. There's probably a few others that are quite good at it too, that don't get the credit.
I'm sure.
Like Brad Binder. You can also do those like incredible opening laps. But it's the difference, I guess, is that it's one of many of Marc's tools.
Yeah, exactly. It's Brad, for all of his qualities, there's certain tools he lacks. Hard lacks no tools, but there are some tools that are, they're at the highest level. If Marc had known the gap from the GB25 to the GB24 was non-existent, would he have chosen to stay at Gresini with the 24? Because obviously Gresini wasn't being upgraded. And I guess let's tackle it in the sense of he would have known 100% that basically the GB24 would be all better.
The GP23, 24, and 25 before making the decision. I think he'd have stayed.
I think he might have stayed.
I think he was happy at Gresini.
And he clearly, whenever he speaks about Gresini, there's this undercurrent of gratitude, like immense gratitude for letting him realize basically this dream or this thought of what he could do on something approximating the grid's best bike, the grid's most compliant bike. But would have taken away from Alex him staying at Gresini. I don't think Alex has the sort of Cinderella-ish season he has right now with Marc alongside. I don't think so. Yeah. He would have still been a good season. Let's not take anything away from Alex, but he would have not looked as good. He would have maybe not felt as good. But at the same time, staying in the same garage as Alex is probably nice, but it's not like they're not conversing all the time on the grid. I think that would have been a consideration.
Although the flip side of that is that it probably would have made Pecco's season look better.
Yeah, and then also, here's another important consideration. Jorge Martin stays under the cap.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
I don't think, Marc is confident of his efforts, I'm sure, but just if you can eliminate that variable, that's also quite nice. That's also a bonus. Is Marc being a rider who rides around bike problems a positive or negative for his team? No, for me, this is a very easy one. It's a massive positive, and I know, like, whatever Honda's ended up in the situation it has, I know Bagnaia is making sounds about Ducati having gone down the wrong route with the GB25 that Marc's innate talent is masking. There's probably something to that. There's almost certainly something to that. But it's also like a skill issue. You'd always rather have the rider who does than the rider who does not. That for me, that's, if it's an issue, it's a nice issue to have.
It's better for his team and worse for his manufacturer, I'd say. It does slow bike development.
Yeah, for the people in the warehouse, not in the warehouse, but in the tech department.
Yeah,
that's probably true. I think that is probably accurate. But I would also counter that with skill issue.
Yeah,
it's like, he'd get good.
He's still good. Yeah, as long as the skill is enough to actually overcome the bike and win things.
Yes.
As opposed to, for example, the Fabio Quartararo situation.
Yes.
Where his skill is very, very good, but it's not enough to overcome the bike's limitations.
Yes, for sure.
Marc's is a better position to be.
As of now, it seems like it will be an easy title for Marc, but after everything he has been through, is this the most important one? I don't think so. I know he's spoken about this a lot, and I know it will, like, once he gets it over the line, and if he stays healthy, he will. Once he gets it over the line, it'll be very emotional, very important to him. But
13 is still always going to be special.
Yeah.
In a way that no other will ever be for anyone.
And for me, 14 is the most important one. And because 14, the first 10 races of 14 are the races that ensure that Marc Marquez will never have to worry about MotoGP employment ever again. Ever. That's the season that's like, okay, we just pay this guy whatever he asks for, and we do whatever he asks for. It sets him up for life. It sets him up as the supernova. 2013, obviously, an incredible achievement. But there was an undercurrent of but it had circumstances kind of helped a little bit, etc. 14, he just destroys everybody right.
There's probably an argument that the most important championship is actually 15 and getting beaten. And kind of the lessons that came out of that. Yeah, I see that. That's that kind of how he adapted and improved after that, because he's essentially never been beaten since until 24.
Why I think it won't be 25 also is, I know Marc's spoken about this a lot, that he needed to prove it to himself that he could still win, but even the 80% mark with the arm 30 degrees out of alignment or whatever was still a very good MotoGP rider.
Still within risk.
Yeah, it wasn't like there were teammates were beating him or something.
Yeah.
The thing is, for me and for all of us, it's not like this is. I'm actually surprised how many times Marc has brought it up, proving to himself situation that he could still win. You had to have known you could still win. The Honda was not good. Yeah. You had to have known that once they put you in the Ducati, at least a few races you will stipe.
Yeah.
And on this kind of level of bike, you will at least be in the title fight. Now, being in the title fight and leading it by 150 points, two different things. But he had to have. Maybe he didn't. That's, if he tells us he wasn't sure, then fair enough. But I was pretty sure. I had few doubts that this was how it was going to go. Is Marquez's monstrous, era-defining talent undervalued due to long cultural and sporting shadow of the Rossi era? Not anymore, right?
No, because he ended Rossi's career. Essentially, he just completely overshadowed the end of the Rossi time.
Kind of, yeah.
The end of the Rossi era kind of faded out slowly because it became the Marc Marquez era.
Yeah.
So, and also if he wins the title this year, You know, I've said this before. It'll be the greatest comeback in motorsport history since Niki Lauda. It's going to like redefine everything about Marc Marquez again from a wider sporting perspective. So no, I don't think that I don't think Valentino took anything away from the Marc Marquez career.
I mean, he wasn't as loved as he would have liked to been, I imagine, or at least his
I don't
reviewers.
think he cares about my love the way that Valentino did.
I mean, okay, but okay, he doesn't care about being loved, but I think he does care about perception. A guy who doesn't care about perception doesn't do the documentary that he did.
But what matters more, the kind of Rossi fans liking you, or the of the universal acceptance from other athletes of his level that he's the greatest of all time. You know, when you see people like Federer boasting about Marc's successes, that's cool. He's a lot like this is a topic for an entirely different thing, but he and Max Verstappen are so absurdly similar in certain regards, and I keep noticing it. I keep just thinking about it, even though it's maybe not the most interesting thing to think about. I also do think that with time, people who stick around just become more pure. No,
it just happens.
Exactly.
I think Jorge Lorenzo probably didn't stick around long enough for maybe by a year or two to get into his
I mean,
beloved
if
great
he stayed Cincinnati and won the 19 and 20 titles, that even Lorenzo's story would be a very different one.
If he held out through the Honda stuff and ended up on a Petronas Yamaha and won a race on a Petronas Yamaha, people would be crying and all that kind of stuff, and they would completely U-turn on him. Not that some people obviously don't. There are people who like Jorge Lorenzo perfectly well, including myself, but you know, it's that universal love. Of all the bikes in MotoGP history, which would you have liked to see Marc race? For me, it's kind of an easy one, but also, I don't know, maybe a boring one. If it's boring, then I apologize. It's the Yamahas that weren't great during the time that he dominated the latter part of the previous decade, for a lot of reasons. But just curious how that kind of profile of bike would have gone against him, whether that was still an easy title winner in his hands, and I suspect yes, probably. But it would have been, I think it would have been very informative in terms of bike character and bike fit and questions like that. It would have just been a fun experiment to run.
The obvious answer is obviously a 500. I think if Marc had to ride a 500, we would have spent a lot of time looking at whoever was replacing him that weekend in terms of injuries, because he would have high-sided himself to the moon. I would have liked to have seen Marc on the original 990 V5 against Valentino. I imagine those two as Repsol Honda teammates in 0203 on that bike. That was, kind of the most perfect thing ever built. And that would be cool.
Yeah, it is also interesting. When you do those comparisons, you also sort of have to maybe take a little bit off Marc, just in terms of him having access to preparation techniques and stuff and all that is more modern than what Rossi had.
That always complicates.
But yeah, I agree. That'd be super, super interesting. Well, 1-2 punch of, does Marc know how to cook, and what do you think he will do once he retires?
As far as I know, Marc doesn't know how to cook. I think this has come up in conversation that he's I think maybe with Alex, that Alex is like the house chef when they live together in Madrid and stuff. Yeah, no, it fits very right. That
feels correct.
It seems appropriate. I don't know if I trust Marc to cook. And then what will we do when he retires? He's going to manage riders. He's going to do what I don't want to say what Rossi did, because he's going to do it in a very different way, but he's obviously going to continue to develop Spanish talent. And
El Rancho,
the Maximo Quiles thing is just the start of I think where, and the fact that he set up his own management agency kind of around himself and Maximo and Alex, Vertical, kind of implies that they're going in that direction.
Would Marc rather win 8 MotoGP titles or have Alex win his first?
Marc would rather win 8 titles. He's a motorbike racer. He's a motorbike racer, and all they care about is the brotherly love thing is lovely and all, but they're not there to be beaten by a brother. I think they're,
I genuinely have a little bit of doubt. I don't know. I mean, ideally he'd have both. That would be, I think, the perfect one. But I don't know. It's hard to say, because at a certain point, I think, well, 8's one above Rossi, isn't it? Yeah. So, okay, probably Marc would rather have 8.
Maybe we have a different conversation about 9.
Is Marc's method of decimating his rivals on track with minimal off-track mind games more effective than Rossi's over-the-top mind games? My take on this is, doesn't matter. Doesn't, like, it's just not that important.
Mark plays his fair share of mind games.
Yeah, but also
They're just a little bit more subtle.
I just call me boring. I thought that was just like always window dressing for us people. I've never felt it was
Right, we need to wrap up.
important to the outcome.
We're at the circuit. We're not
Coming
hard
to the circuit.
Let's go in the gate.
That is true. So it's a fun, interesting life with interesting restrictions. Thank you very much for joining us for this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to Insta360.